Hi, this is Professor Rogers. In this presentation, I will provide an overview of statistical packages appropriate for this course and how to access them. Although many students have trepidation about statistics, my experience is that one of the hardest parts of the course may simply be learning how to access and use the software. Once we get past this point, and you become comfortable with it, I start hearing things like, "This course isn't as hard as I thought it would be." Unfortunately, I can't stand next to you while you do this, but I can give you advice on how to get over the initial hump. There is no single package available to us that handles all the procedures to which we need exposure. You will use two statistical packages in the course. Core procedures will be handled using the packages SPSS or PSPP. Notice I said or. You will choose one or the other based on your personal situation. We will supplement your packages with a software called Gretel. I will also close with comments about doing statistics in Microsoft Excel and why we are not using Excel. In this presentation, we cover the following topics: how to get the software, what the menu bar and key windows look like, how to open a data set, how to save a data set. Before I proceed, let me make a couple caveats about what I'm about to show you regarding accessing and using software. First, I can't tell you everything that will happen when you use a specific package. There are variations by versions of the software, the browser and browser settings, the operating system of your computer, and your internet connection. I cannot possibly predict all the different variations of what can happen. I will simply show you a common way to access the functions. You may need to adapt these instructions to fit your local situation. Second, don't be afraid to play with your software by clicking for fun just to see what happens. Nothing will break. At first, this might seem strange, but you will learn how to use the software faster. There is no better teacher than experience. You will use in this course either SPSS or PSPP for basic statistical procedures. Which software you will use depend on whether or not you can come to campus to do your coursework. SPSS is one of the big three software packages and is available in the computer lab on the 3rd floor of Cushwa Hall, as well as other locations on campus. SPSS originally stood for Statistical Package for the Social Sciences, but after its purchase by IBM in 2009, it was called Statistical Product and Service Solutions. Nevertheless, most people still call it by its original name. PSPP is a freeware alternative to SPSS, supported by the Free Software Foundation. If you cannot come to campus to do your work, this alternative can be downloaded from the internet at no cost to you. You might be wondering what PSPP stands for. The answer: nothing. The creators deliberately used the letters of SPSS, but leave it to your imagination to come up with a name. PSPP does not have as many procedures as SPSS. PSPP users will need to move to Gretel earlier in the course than SPSS users. Let's start with SPSS. Whether you plan to use SPSS or PSPP, you should pay attention to what I'm going to say about SPSS. The differences between SPSS and PSPP are slight, so when I discuss PSPP, I move quickly when I talk about how the software looks. On campus computers with this software, you can find SPSS on the Start menu in the folder IBM SPSS Statistics. In the folder, you will find an icon on which you must click to start the software. When you click on the icon in the folder, it may take a few minutes to load. What will eventually appear is this screen, which asks about which file to open. I click Cancel on the lower right-hand corner. When the opening dialog box clears, the result is this spreadsheet. This view is called the Data view. You will see many commands in the menu bar at the top of the software. The most important ones for this course are File, Transform, and Analyze. In SPSS, you open a file in much the same way that you would open a file in Microsoft Word. Files prepared for use in SPSS end in the suffix .sav. To open a file, first go to the File menu. In the menu, go to Open and then to Data. You can see a dialog box showing a directory structure. It looks much like the dialog box one sees in Microsoft Word when looking for a file. Find the folder with your dataset. By default, the software looks for all files with the suffix .sav, which indicates again that the file is in an SPSS format. In the directory, highlight the file that you want and then click the Open button in the lower right-hand corner. The result is that the spreadsheet in the data view will be populated with your data. I am here using a dataset of U.S. counties, and each observation is a county or county equivalent. The rows are the individual observations. Here I highlight the row for Orange County, California. Each item in this row is information about Orange County, what state it is in, what region of the country it is in, what its population density is, and so on. The columns are the variables. Here I highlight the variable popdens, which is the population density for each county of the United States. Scroll bars on the bottom and right side of data view allows one to move through the dataset, which can be quite large. You can change the view by going to the lower left-hand corner of the screen. There you see that you can choose between data view and the variable view. If you click on the variable view, you get a list of variables in the dataset and information about their formatting and labeling. Any output you get appears in a separate output window. In many procedures, this window opens by itself on executing a command, or it appears on the bottom of your screen in a new icon. The output window contains results as well as information about the execution of the command. Here you see information about the opening of the data file. If you cannot find the output window, you can locate it using the File menu. If you make changes to your dataset, you may want to save them permanently. This dataset can be saved under the same file name using the Save command under the File menu. Or if you want to change the file name, you can use the Save As command. This command gives you a directory structure so you can locate where you want to save the file, and a small box where you can put the new name of the file. This function is just like what you get in Microsoft Word. Personally, if I am making changes to my original dataset, I usually use the Save As command so that I can keep the original data in its pure form. And then I can use the new Save As dataset when doing my research. When you are done using SPSS, you leave the program by clicking the Exit command in the File menu. In order to leave, you will have to respond to a series of dialog boxes. If you made changes to the dataset but didn't save them, you will be asked whether or not you want to save your changes. You will be asked whether you want to save the contents of your output window. The choice is yours, but usually I say no. Given the way I work, I've already copied the output, or I've printed it out by the time I end my session. You will be asked to verify whether or not you want to leave SPSS. Here you click on Yes. If you can't come to campus, you can use PSPP. I will show you how to download the software. However, I will move quickly through the operation of the software because it is so similar to SPSS. In Blackboard, I have under the menu button Stats and Software a folder with links to information about PSPP. The PSPP folder contains links for downloading the software package. Click on the appropriate link for Windows or Mac. Let me at this point make a comment about Mac. I'm only in a position to support use in Windows. Students working in a Mac environment have been successful in using PSPP. Usually there are no problems, but sometimes there are problems with Mac settings with which I am unfamiliar, because of things tied to your personal computer and local environment. Here's the page from which you download PSPP for Windows. The download files are actually in the middle of the page. You want the most recent version, which is at the top of the download box. You need to know whether you have a 32-bit or 64-bit machine. If you don't know what bit size of your machine that you have, download the 32-bit file. The download starts when you click on the link for the file. You'll be sent to sourceforge.net to download the file. The screen is confusing. It looks like you are supposed to hit an additional download button or provide some personal information. These are tricks. They are part of the software provider's effort to sell you more things. After all, you are getting the software for free, so they need to recoup their costs somehow. Nonetheless, you aren't required to play along. I've highlighted the part of the screen that tells you about the download. It's the PSPP for Windows part. Here you know what's happening. At this point, my instructions get complicated because every person's security settings and security software are different. On my computer, the name of the file downloaded appears in the lower left-hand corner of the screen. While the file downloads, I click on the diamond pointed downward and click on Open when done, which automatically opens the file and sets it up on my computer upon completion. Next, I get the File Save As screen. I'm asked where I want to put the file. Some computers may be set automatically to put the file in your download directory without asking for permission, but I have a setting on my computer that blocks that. Then my computer automatically tries to set up the file. It gives me a user account control box saying it does not recognize the software provider and asks me whether I will cancel or allow. I say allow. Unfortunately, I was not able to take a screenshot of this part of the process. If your computer does not automatically load the file, find where the file was downloaded, probably your download directory, and click on the file. Then it should set up. As part of the process, you will receive dialog boxes about licensing and the directory location of the software. Click on Next or Install, which allows you to proceed. Some computers may have additional dialog boxes. You will then see a box with a bar on the screen that tracks progress during setup. It should take only a minute or so. When the setup is done, you hit the Close option. Once completed, you will find the PSPP folder in your Start menu, which contains the PSPP icon on which you click to start the software. For Mac users, I have provided a link to Jeremy Laverdny's page on PSPP for Mac. Here's what the page looks like. You need to download the most recent version of PSPP. Unfortunately, I cannot give you more details than this about the Mac setup. Once the software is opened, you get the data view. Notice the commands on the menu bar at the top. They're very similar to what you saw in SPSS. The File menu is very similar to SPSS. You see the commands for Open, Save, Save As, and Quit. Quit is used instead of Exit in PSPP. The dialog boxes with your computer's directory structure look different from SPSS, but they are still navigated easily. PSPP looks for files with the SPSS file type .sav. Here's the data view populated after I open the county data file. You will notice in the lower left-hand corner that PSPP gives me both the data view and variable view, like SPSS. We will supplement our use of SPSS and PSPP with a freeware called Gretel. Gretel stands for New Regression Economics and Time Series Library. In Blackboard, I have a link to the Gretel webpage where Gretel can be downloaded. There are links for downloading Windows and Mac versions of this software. On the Windows pages from which you download the program, the download links are found in the middle of the page. Load the most recent version that self-installs. The location on Mac pages will vary by the type of processor that you have. Like any software that you install, you will get a series of dialog boxes with the installation of Gretl. Answer the questions and give the commands needed to proceed. Soon you will arrive at the Setup Wizard, which gives you an additional series of instructions and commands. Once the installation is completed, you will find a Gretl folder and icon on your Start menu. When you click on the Gretl icon, you will get the empty window in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. Go to the File menu command at the left of the menu bar. When you open it, you will see the menu in the box in the lower right-hand corner of this screen. Click on Open Data and User File. The result is the dialog box in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. Notice the left side of the box. It has directories from your computer in it. Click your way through the directory structure and find the file you want. By default, Gretl looks for a special file type with the suffix .gdt. However, in the lower right-hand corner of the box, you can reset the file type to look for SPSS files ending with the suffix .sav. In other words, we can use the .sav file across all three types of software that we are talking about in this presentation. The dialog box in the lower right-hand corner is the directory with the file that I want, and I highlight the file. Again, notice that the name of the suffix type is changed to SPSS in the lower right-hand corner of this box. Click on Open when you have your file. Opening a file in Gretl generates some different questions than opening one in SPSS or PSPP. Gretl is trying to determine whether your data file is cross-sectional or longitudinal or panel. Different statistical procedures are used for the different file types. Gretl scans your file and takes a guess at what it finds. You will be asked to verify what type of data you have through a series of dialog boxes and will be given an opportunity to change the type if you think Gretl has misidentified your file. There may also appear a large box describing the setup of variables. If you get this, you can close this box by hitting the X in the upper right-hand corner. What should be left is a window with a list of your data file's variables by name. You can also use the File menu to save the data file if you make changes. Save data if you are saving to the same file, and save data as if you are saving under a new name or new file type. You can save the data file either in Gretl or SPSS formats. I want to make a few comments about doing statistics in Excel. Excel has a number of statistical functions included with the spreadsheet, but of particular interest is the Data Analysis Tool Pack, which is not automatically loaded in the Excel version that you have. To get it, first click on the Microsoft logo in the upper left-hand corner, which opens a drop-down menu. At the bottom of the menu is a little box that says Excel Options. Click on this. Excel Options has its own drop-down menu, and on the left you need to click on Add-ins. The result will be a menu that you see before you now. Highlight the Analysis Toolpack, VBA, and then click OK. This should install the Analysis Toolpack. Next, you should go to the Data tab on the top menu bar. After you click on it, at the far right, you will see something that says Data Analysis. Normally this package is not there. It was loaded when you clicked on Analysis Toolpack VBA in the previous slide. If you click on Data Analysis, the result will be a dialog box listing a number of statistical functions. An obvious question at this point would be this. If Excel can do some basic statistics, why do we need different packages? There are 4 reasons why we limit our use of Excel. First, the Data Analysis Toolpack is available only in Windows versions of Excel. Second, Excel is limited in the size of database it can handle. Small files with 5 to 100 rows are handled easily. Large datasets with 200,000 records might not be so storable. Middle-sized datasets, like those with 50,000 observations, might be storable, though it's still difficult to move through the spreadsheet using its statistical capabilities. Third, the number of statistical techniques in Excel is limited. We are especially concerned about functions that are used to establish causality. Finally, perhaps most damning is the fact that some statistical functions in Excel give the wrong answer. Excel fixed some of these problems with the release of 2012, but the data analysis package is far from perfected. Excel is viewed so poorly that some academic journals now refuse to publish articles in which the statistical analysis was done in Excel. Whatever software solution you are using, don't be afraid to play around with the software a bit to understand its capabilities. Learning by doing is our best technique. Our first stats exercise, which is due next week, involves getting your software running and printing out a list of variables. It's not a sophisticated assignment, and this was deliberate on my part. I want to give everyone time to get accustomed to the new tools, and once we get over that initial hump, the course flows much easier. Many of you who are computer savvy will figure out how to use the software quite quickly. I expect a few of you might need assistance. If you have fallen and you can't get up, please contact me as soon as possible, and I will try to work you through the situation that you're in. By the time we hit week 3 assignments, I assume your software will